Hello, my name is Jetta. I wrote Empty Chairs and Scott told me we had to make it.
This is my friend Jeddah. She's a writer and filmmaker, and she had an idea for a web series to be released as a series of YouTube shorts.
Oh my god. I mean, like, you just don't appreciate a wide shot until you have to film in portrait, don't you? Like, you don't have the ability to do your regular sort of horror moves of somebody like walking by in the background. You have to be scary in height.
What Jeddah is saying there might sound dangerously close to gibberish, but having been present throughout all stages of this production, it's starting to make a lot of sense. You see, over the 100 and something years movies have been around, they have always been filmed in landscape. So certain shots like the over-the-shoulder shot or two shots are part of everyday cinematic language. But the fairly new medium of the TikTok style video is designed for mobile phones and not for cinema. So a simple shot like this one of two people in a car, if shot in portrait, would have to be two medium close-ups. That means if these two people were talking, you would have to edit between those two shots.
Framing.
Yeah. Framing's a hard bit because it's almost a square rather than a rectangle.
So everything seems to exist in medium close-up or medium long shots. And the thing that's most difficult to remember, for me at least, is to make sure the bottom third of the image doesn't contain anything too important, as Instagram and YouTube both put text over that area.
This is Sam.
This is my friend Sam, a jack of all trades and master of one hell of a lot of them too, and the man I owe the most amount of favours to. I roped him into this production without fully explaining either his role or the limitations of the format, but he was essentially the cinematographer, but also did visual effects and a number of other things too.
What do you feel are the flaws in portrait?
Hold on. The flaws, I don't know if there are any flaws per se.
Challenges,
it's just a very different way of thinking.
What this way of filming reminds me of, in terms of limitations, not in scope, is Cinorama.
Synorama was a complicated and expensive way to film a movie. To achieve a negative wide enough to fill a 96-foot-long curved screen, a new camera was invented. Actually, 3 35mm cameras were mated and synced together, shooting different angles of the same scene. The 3-panel process. Sound was 7-channel stereo, unprecedented in the mono era of the 50s. It also required a theater with 3 separate projectors, shooting from 3 widely separate angles and running in frame-by-frame sync.
Cinorama was an ultra-widescreen way of shooting, which was projected onto curved screens which bent around the audience in about 150 degrees, making the viewer feel more immersed into the film. The format lent itself to novelty films where the camera was mounted on roller coasters and aeroplanes, but only 2 narrative features were made in this format: The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, which is now lost to time, and How the West Was Won.
This is a big, sprawling, Oscar-winning story about how settlers conquered the American West over half a century. It marked one of the first narrative feature films shot in the widescreen 3-camera Cinorama format, which had been previously used in travelogues. How the West Was Won features a huge cast, an impressive ensemble of roughly 24 Hollywood stars supported by 12,000 extras. While a selection of critics praised the film's epic ambitions, others were far less kind. The New York Times called the film a mammoth patchwork of Western fiction cliches with little or no imagination, and indeed with no pictorial style. If there was a lack of a consistent style, there is an explanation for that. 3, arguably 4 different directors brought these massive Cinorama sequences to life: Henry Hathaway, George Marshall, and John Ford, each charged with pushing the boundaries of the new technology to its limits. And they did, putting the large and bulky Cinorama camera on runaway chuck wagons, on rafts running through raging rapids, and in the middle of a buffalo stampede.
This wide format called for epic scale and lavish landscapes, but you couldn't do a close-up in this format. Shooting in portrait, you have the opposite problem. Everything is fairly close and you have no wide shot, the background only being glanced over the shoulders of the characters. So the story has to be created with that in mind. I don't want to take anything away from Jeddah, as this is very much her project, but I did help with the scripting and directing. And we had to create something very small. The show has a cast of 3 people. 2 of them played by Jeddah herself, and I played the lead character's therapist.
We'll just have a little bit of a struggle.
Cool.
I've waited a long time to strangle Scott. So.
Haven't we all?
Unfortunately, I think that's probably right.
Alright.
I wish I could say that we took these roles out of vanity, but the truth is it's the easiest way to keep the budget down.
We were also saying upstairs the level of acting that you need as well is different.
Yeah, well, I think that's less to do with the aspect ratio, I guess, and more to do with the size of the screen people are going to be viewing it on.
Yeah.
So it's, if we're assuming most people are going to be watching it on a mobile phone, it's judging that level of size of performance.
Yeah. We've decided television size.
Yeah.
And we've also decided that next time we'll get an actual actor.
The last member of our 4-person crew was Kath. I think this is Kath's first time working on any sort of production, even one as incredibly low budget as this one. But she was our PA, so she did a lot of schlepping of equipment and even read most of the off-camera dialogue.
I'm me. I'm obviously me. This is my house. I live here with my family.
I live here with my family. I've played a lot of fucked up people in my life.
Played it method.
I mean,
There's also like the very like. Yeah.
oh, what's that meme that was going around, the robot one? What are you talking about, silly?
Yeah.
She was very handy to have on set, and if any low-budget filmmakers want some genuine advice, please heed this. It's better to hire a keen amateur than a bored professional.
We've spent the last day and a half filming 6 minutes. The magic of filmmaking. See?
Absolute magic.
It's absolute magic. So, that's how long it takes to film 6 minutes. A day and a half. And I thank everybody for doing it for free.
I too would like to publicly thank everyone involved in the production for their help, without which I would be at home daydreaming about being a filmmaker rather than actually being one. Jeddah and I plan to release the web series in 6 one-minute parts very soon, so do subscribe to this channel to keep updated. I'm Scott Kingsnorth, and I'm making a movie.